I think we all buy into this false narrative that we have to try to pretend to be someone that we're not. And as humans, we want to people please. We want to fit in. We want to get along with the vast majority. We don't want to be hated. But through this process, unfortunately, something can happen. Your mindset can shift, and you become someone that you're not in a world that surrounds you with expectations. Everyone expects us to look a certain way, to be a certain place in life. We create these false expectations in our own mind, and because of that, we then sometimes put ourselves in a position where we try to be a certain kind of person, not so authentic. We craft a version of ourselves that we deem to be socially acceptable. And in the short term, that can feel like a very good thing to do. We feel like we fit in. We feel like we, get along with people better. But over a course of time, over a long period of time, you can't hold an image up that just isn't correct, that isn't who you really are. And I think sometimes we all need a subtle reminder that just being your weird, strange, authentic self, however you perceive it, is perhaps the right thing to do. If you create this false persona around you, then it feels like some sort of a role that you never auditioned for. It's almost like you're acting in some sort of a film, but you're having to switch it on. And, that's exhausting. Consciously always trying to turn up to be someone that you're not, just to fit in, just to make other people happy, just to meet other people's expectations all the time. That will wear you down. I think sometimes, and there's nothing wrong with being unauthentic. It's all part of the great discovery, figuring out who you really are, what you like. But don't walk this planet being someone that you're not. Don't do it for other people. Don't try to be other people's version of what you think is perfect. Don't do it for them. Do it for yourself, You know what? I can be honest and say that I quite like me, I like my silly ways sometimes. To anyone that knows me quite closely, especially my partner, she could quite easily vouch for this, that sometimes I can come across as a bit silly, bit of a child, and that's fine, but I'm not ever going to stop doing that. Don't ever let other people try to rein you in or to make you feel like you should be a certain way. This is a random example, but I remember at the start of the year, I decided to grow a moustache. You can even see it in some of my earlier videos. And I remember a group of my friends, especially my partner, telling me that they didn't really like it, that they thought it looked a little bit silly. And I remember kind of contemplating with the idea of doing it. And I thought to myself, you know what? I like it. So I'm just going to do it. So I did for about 4 months. I had this moustache, and eventually I got bored of it and I chopped it off a couple of months ago. But what my point really is that don't let other people tell you what you can and can't do. If you want to wear a bright green hat, if you want to go to work on roller skates in the morning because that's what you want to do, get out there and get them, man. You do you. I am no saint by any means. There are times when I get this wrong. I sometimes think, well, maybe I should do this because that's what's expected of me. I've done videos recently explaining the beginning of this YouTube journey, the lessons that I've learned, passing on a couple of little lessons that I learned from a few mistakes that I'd done, handing it back, as you were. And within this process, I've kind of found out, I've done a few videos a few different ways now, and I've learned that the best way to do this is to be completely authentic, to be myself, to be my weird, slightly strange and at times cringy self. And it just made me think, how many people have to feel like they have to live a certain way, to do things, be a certain kind of person just to make someone else happy. You don't perhaps realise it, but there are a lot of people that like you for exactly who you are, for the person that you've become, for how you've helped them, and they love you for it. People genuinely do love the real version of you. Don't feel like you owe it to absolutely anybody to try to be someone for them that you're not. And I think as well, when you do this, when you have this kind of mind shift, something changes. I certainly noticed the friends that I surrounded myself with the group became smaller. I have a smaller circle of friends for doing this, but the friends that I do have, they know me for who I really am. Some of them didn't like who I am, and that's fine. If you don't like me for who I am, then you're probably not meant to be in my life anyway, which, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think by becoming more authentic, by creating this aura of authentic, that was a hard one to say, by creating this aura of authenticity around you, you're going to attract authentic people. I think that kind of energy breeds itself. I genuinely do feel that. I've met a lot more authentic people, more real people, and authentic people notice authentic people. I've said authentic far too much now, but you get what I'm trying to say, you know. I don't think anyone's really got anywhere positive in life by being someone that they're not, by being fake. I mean, I certainly haven't. If I've ever tried to act a certain way or be a kind of person to please somebody else, it's never ultimately led me to a position where I've been able to sustain it for a long period of time and ever end up happy from it. There's genuinely no way out of it that ever works. You have to end up, you know, because when you close all the doors and you're at home on your own, you are who you are. And that's who you should show the world, you know, that's the person that you genuinely are. Don't walk around with a mask on. Don't live this life and try to be the expectation. Don't try to be what everyone wants you to be. Don't do it. Don't feel like you have to go to work every day, put this mask on and be this kind of person. And if you are and you're struggling with that, at the same time, I can feel that pain. I can see where you're coming from. I can see why you're having to do this. Sometimes we become someone that we're genuinely not by being in situations that we find it hard to get out of. Say, for instance, a job that we don't really want to be working in. You know, perhaps we have to turn up there every day to pay the bills, you know, or a relative that we have to get along with because, you know, they're family and we've got no other choice. But we make these conscious choices all the time, all these decisions to act a certain way, to kind of just deal with the situation. But in the long run, it's never going to help, does it? It makes the day feel easier. It's a short-term fix, you know. And I get it. We all have busy lives. We all want to just get through the day. We all want to get home to our loved ones. We want to sit down and watch the series that we're watching in the evening. And, you know, it's a real struggle. It genuinely can be. But I encourage you in not a malice kind of way, but into perhaps more subtle increments in your day-to-day routine, is to remind everyone who you are and what makes you laugh, you know, what your opinion is on on something. Sometimes maybe perhaps you have an opinion about something and you feel held back and you feel like you can't give your opinion on something because someone's going to object to you and you're going to receive this negative energy and you're scared because of that. Challenge it. If you feel strongly about something and it's authentically how you look at something, say it. What is the worst that's going to happen? You know, okay, fine, they're not going to agree with you. So what? At least then they know who they're dealing with. At least you've shown them who you really are. And if this is a battle that you have to work towards doing, you know, creating and showing the world this authentic version of yourself, then take your time with it. There's no rush. Look, don't get me wrong, you don't have to be a complete arsehole and turn up at work and just stick a finger in everyone's face and tell them how you really feel. I mean, sure, sometimes we perhaps all feel like we could do that, but that's not really socially acceptable, is it? The person that's going to benefit the most is you. And you already know this. You're going to be able to reap the rewards from being able to get up in the morning, walk out of your front door, and be yourself. I think if we all looked out for each other a little bit more, and we all had this conversation a little bit more regularly, then I think everyone would realise that, you know, this is a real thing, this unauthentic pandemic that's going on. You know, and unfortunately it's defined by these artificial worlds, you know, these Facebook pages, these forums, these Instagrams, and, you know, it creates all this expectation. It almost forces you to have to wear this mask, to meet these standards, to, you know, look as good as Dave from HR in his Facebook pictures when he's sat on holiday with his wife and 4 kids and they're having a great time. And you can sit there and think, why aren't I? If you genuinely feel like you, for a very long period of time, have been hiding behind some sort of false identity, claiming to be someone that you're completely not, I invite you to reflect on this, okay? Have a word with yourself. Have a word with perhaps the people that are close to you and begin that process of just showing the world who you really are. Being authentic and having more authentic people in this world. What's it going to do? What am I going to say? It's going to make the world more authentic. When I say be authentic, I'm not saying speak what's on your mind all the time. You know, just end up just splurging out every single thought that you might quite have that comes to your head randomly. You know, that could get you in trouble. So don't misinterpret what I'm trying to say to you, because we don't want that to happen. You know, I think in this modern day, in this modern age, it's become the hardest point ever to actually be 100% authentic and be your true self. You know, I genuinely believe that in this day and age, right here, right now, this very day, it's the hardest point for a lot of people to turn up and be their most authentic and most real version of themselves every single day. There's a world of lost, false identities, all these social media platforms. And throughout all of this, sometimes we just veer off track and we lose our way sometimes. And I'm just here today to remind you that more people love you for exactly who you really are than you probably let on to realize. Being authentic is loving yourself, having that respect for who you really are, and allowing yourself to be this person. If you're a bit quirky and you're a bit different, and you like something that, hey, maybe other people don't consider as normal, who cares? But why does it even matter? No one's going to remember it. Please don't let social media rob you of your identity. Please don't let it make you feel like you have to act a certain way, post certain versions of your life, make out to be this glorious, perfect person to the people that you surround yourself with and these so-called friends. Don't put yourself into that position, because that's exactly where we're heading. You know, someone's identity is now, in this modern day era, far more noticed on something like a social media platform on a glossy screen than it is on a normal interaction. And we're losing that. And this is where this unauthenticity is beginning to get lost. It's where we're having this disconnect. And I'd like to just kind of remind everyone today, and even remind myself, because I try to all the time, that we have to stay connected and we have to keep this authenticity. Be yourself, because you owe it to yourself. There's no excuse. If you haven't already, check this video out right here, where I have a brief discussion on camera about how just the normal day-to-day activities of life can sometimes bog us down and stress us out. And it's a very subtle reminder that you're still doing enough. Thanks for watching as always, guys. See you next time.